Welcome summoners to another ProGuides Wild Rift video, and let me ask you, are you tired of losing games because your favorite champion just doesn't do enough? No problem, we got you covered with the 5 best solo queue ranked champions for this patch, so let's take a look at them. On our first spot we have Irelia. Irelia is infamous for her power in lane, but there's something that's quite special about this champion in this version of the game. Some people say Irelia was a hard champion on the PC game, but in Wild Rift, she is truly a monster to master. The reason for that is that the inputs are not easy to make at all times because you need to be very precise. You might even say that auto-aim is your biggest enemy. So if you want to unleash the true potential of Irelia as a champion, you should get rid of autocasting in most situations and try to do manual as much as you can. I know it's going to be hard, but it's more than worth it because she is quite broken if you build the right items. But let's talk about what this champion does. For her identity, she's a hyper carry bruiser. She wants to stomp lane and then influence the map after doing so. She also has the capability of split pushing, but it's not as good as you might think it is. However, depending on the situation, you can still pull it off. Nonetheless, if you want to get most out of the champion in 1v1 scenarios or overall in carrying the game, you want to build specific items. Number 1, you always want Conqueror, it's just a given. For summoner spells, you want Flash and Ignite, and now for the specific items you need to carry. Your first item will always be Blade of the Ruined King, it's absolutely broken on her. For this you have to always consider that her passive ability grants her a massive amount of attack speed. And since Blade of the Ruined King is stronger for melee champions, she uses that quite well. For the second item, if we are fighting against a lot of magical damage dealers, we can build a Wit's End. With that, we have the resistances and insane on-hit damage from basically 3 sources: Blade of the Ruined King, Wit's End and our passive. Afterwards, as your third item, just go Death's Dance. Consequently, if the enemy team doesn't have a lot of AP damage dealers, just go Death's Dance as your second item. And now we get to the point why this champion is so strong. With those items and the passive, she just kills you by attacking you. She just doesn't need to hit anything. All she wants, ideally though, is her passive stacks to be available. Other than that, she doesn't even need to hit you with a spell. You will die, guaranteed, and I'm sure you pretty much noticed that once you've played against Irelia. But you need to be very careful not to fall into the trap of Triforce on this champion. You don't really need it, the other alternatives are just way better and more consistent than the Trinity Force itself. But how exactly does Irelia carry? Well, now we're at the point where things get a little bit dicey. She is not an easy champion to play, but she is surely broken if you're able to do so. So let's quickly talk about one of the most important combos on Irelia. Rather than just going in all the time, what about placing your E1 into Fog of War, then you throw your R into the enemy teamfight so they are slowed, then you use the marks applied by your R to cast a few of your Qs, and then use your E2 once you're comfortable enough of knowing it's going to hit. After that, you can Q a few times again. Other than that, try to be a bit more creative with your third ability. In this case, the E ability. You can, for example, hide in brushes, place your E1, dash onto a low HP minion, be close to the enemy champion, beat him up with your auto attacks, and then place your E2. As a consequence, the enemy might think that your E2 is in fact your E1, but then he's already stunned and most likely dead. So now it's time for a question of the day. So let's all be honest here. I mean, Irelia surely isn't easy to play. And did you play Irelia, and if so, how many times did you mess up and got killed as a consequence? Let me know in the comments below. Next up on our list is Janna. Some love for the support champions here. Janna has been probably the most consistent solo queue support you can ever ask for. The reason is not only that her lane is relatively safe, but also her ability to walk around the map in unseen speeds. But let's talk about what this champion does in lane or in the game in specific. During laning phase, a good Janna in a solo queue environment can win the most unwinnable lanes. The reason for that is that she might even start with her first ability and just push the wave. With that, she might even avoid problematic early game situations, for example against an army. You just never want to play against an army. It's awful. To accomplish that, tell your AD carry that you are going to use your tornado into the entire wave and you just want to play for the wave to get level 2 fast. Afterwards you can go for a deep ward and be safe from any kind of jungle interaction. A little trick in laning is also using an auto attack into your second ability. Don't use your second ability into an auto attack, that way you'll lose some damage from the passive part of your second ability. Also quite a valuable tip is when you want to go for deep vision and you have to walk by brushes. Use your first ability and angle them into those brushes, and before you walk by, unleash it so if somebody is in there, you'll A, know because of the Aerie proc, or B, they will be stopped from getting onto you. Just stay safe. Other than that, you want to unleash yourself from laning and terrorize the map. For the later parts of the game, you want to peel your teammates. Your ultimate ability and your first ability are perfect tools to do so. Nobody can really jump on them if you have them available. So for runes, take Aerie. For summoner spells, take Flash and Heal, and if you face something like a Diana or a Rengar, just take the Exhaust. That way, it'll be less obnoxious and less of a problem to deal with. For the build, since you're a support and you want to traverse the map super fast, take Lucidity Boost with the Redemption enchant. Sometimes you might want the Locket enchant depending on what enemies you're facing. And what would our glorious supports do without their AD carries? Let's welcome Kaisa. What does this champion do? Kaisa is very strong in 1v1 situations. She's basically Space Vayne. But what truly gives her the edge in solo queue is her early power spike. The moment she gets her Q evolve, she can decimate people. On top of that, she can relocate in a fight, which is always a blessing for an AD carry. So if the enemy team is engaging into you and you applied your mark onto somebody in the backline or somebody of your teammates did so by using their CC ability, you can just change the way you want to play the fight. From one end to the other end of the fight within not even a second. And once you're there, you can start working your magic. So to make sure you get the most out of the champion, take Conqueror in your runes and Vampirism. This rune constellation is absolutely broken on the champion. For summoner spells, take Flash and Barrier. And to get the fastest Q evolve you can ask for, buy a BF sword, an Executioner's Calling and a Longsword. The moment you have those items, you can just upgrade your ability and start demolishing people. And as you complete your item build, don't forget to buy a Runaan's Hurricane. It's an absolutely bonkers item on your champion, so you shouldn't miss out on that one because it's just way too good. So let's move on from the AD carry or Dragon Lane to the jungle role. Jungle role is infamous for its assassins. We have Rengar and Kha'zix going there and they're absolutely crazy in terms of champions. But this time we present you Kha'zix. The reason for this is because he's so absolutely versatile in everything he does. So what does this champion do? From level 1 to 4 he is not much more than a minion that deals a little bit of more damage. However, upon reaching level 5 and unlocking his first abilities evolve, he is now an actual monster in the game. He can duel anything that stands in his way and ravages objectives almost in an instant. And to add insult to injury, he can even go stealth and jump away once he doesn't feel like actually fighting anymore. But what makes the champion so special? Basically on every level he gains a point for his ultimate ability, his playstyle can change drastically. Upon evolving his first ability, his single target damage skyrockets. Upon evolving his second ability, he now can properly engage fights by slowing the enemy, can peel away the enemy, and can never be caught. He also gains the ability to play into ranged champions, because he has finally an answer to what they're doing. Evolving the third ability grants him the option to jump deep into the enemy team to finish off a low HP enemy target. And once he does so, he can just jump again and just be free. And for the last ultimate evolve, which most likely isn't going to be used anyway unless you kill a Rengar and gain your 4th evolve point, you gain a longer stealth and an additional charge, which gives you more room to brainplay the enemy. So how does Kha'zix carry? Kha'zix wants to get to level 5 as I've told you before and then start doing work. He can face check anything at that point and make sure you die. Once he gets to the point and even get a singular kill, it's going to be a hard time for the enemy team because they need to respect Fog of War at any point in time. And to make sure you're strong enough, you take Conqueror, Flash and Smite, and for items you go Duskblade, Mortal Reminder into a Death Stance, and then you look what you need at that point of the game, be it Hysteric's Gauge or Black Cleaver, and then afterwards you build the one you didn't build before. But let me share with you a little secret about the Duskblade, and why once you have completed it, you can do whatever you want on the Rift. Duskblade of Draktar has a unique passive called Night Stalker. After being unseen for at least 1 second, your next basic attack against an enemy champion deals 20 to 125 bonus damage and slows them by 99% for 0.5 seconds. The enhanced attack lasts 5 seconds after being seen by an enemy champion. So now, let's look at this. If you are unseen for at least 1 second, you gain the buff. And once you are seen by something, be it even a ward or anything, the buff starts to go away. And you have an animation for that. You have a little timer on the icon that tells you if you're actually on a ward. and with that you can always trap in places where the enemy doesn't have vision. It's absolutely broken, and you get a lot of free kills for this, all the time. So let's get to our last champion, Zed. Even though Zed has been nerfed in the recent patch, he's still going strong. This nerf is not going to change much as to what he wants to accomplish. He's still going to one-shot squishies and most likely going to struggle against the tankier targets. But this change doesn't change anything about the fact that if he hits you with a triple shuriken combo, that you are going to die. But it's sure something that it's gonna be felt to any Zed player, because contrary to League PC, his third ability in this game deals bonus damage when you're hit by multiple shadow slashes. So what is the goal of the champion? The goal of the champion is to vanish into fog of war throughout the game and kill his enemies by rotations. He also forces the enemy team to buy a certain enchantment very early on, which is called stasis. If they don't have this item, they're going to die very fast and they have nothing else to do about it. Nonetheless, you have to be careful in lane not to get poked out too much. You're not very strong in the early game, so please don't forget that. However, in laning, you need to always try to hit your shurikens on the enemy and the minions alike. You want to secure last hits and damage at the same time. Don't try to do both unless you can. However, on level 3 you can start looking for some combos. With access to all your abilities, you'll have an easy time dealing damage to the enemy. And once you've poked him with a full combo, on the second combo they're going to die. All you have to do so is be wary of your electrocute's cooldown. So for runes, go mostly electrocute. Into some constellations you can also go conqueror. For summoner spells, go flash and ignite, and your item build, and your strongest item basically, is the Yomu's Ghostblade. You want the rotations, and you want to never stop doing those rotations. And if your enemy laner follows you, you basically trap for him in a brush and make sure he dies for his sins. But as the game goes on, please look out for the scoreboard, check if the enemy team has a stasis enchant, and if so, don't ult the target that has it. Rather bait it and then kill them after they used it. And that wraps it up for today. Thank you all for watching and leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more pro guides in the future.